Hey everybody, welcome back into building. I hope you guys are having a beautiful day so far. This is a bit, I think a lot of people are just starting to stress a little bit about Florian Wirtz. That's at least just what I'm seeing online. Like yesterday, for example, on Liverpool Goals, I posted fantastic news around Milos Kerkez, the fact that he can't wait to be a Liverpool player and the fact that we're advancing in that deal as well. But then almost all the main comments on that post were just people saying, "What's happening with the Wirtz deal? Why aren't we getting it done? Are the talks breaking down? This and that," of just people stressing out. But bro, guys, I'm telling you, deals like these not only take a while to get done, and Fabrizio Romano anyways is saying that we're trying to get it done as soon as possible, so really advancing on it this week. But it's not like from one day to the next it's just like 100% completed. You know what I mean? Like we're going to be putting record numbers into this deal, probably record numbers that we're paying for a young player, in terms of the wages. But then also the transfer fee is going to be a record-breaking one. So of course, right now we're working on how are we going to work on those installments? How much are we going to pay up front? How much can we pay over 3 years? Can we offer Leverkusen a player in exchange? All of these details are very important so that we can try to divvy out this fee, because it's also going to be a very busy summer for us, you guys. Very busy summer in terms of other incomings, like we know Frimpong, Gyökeres, we're going to bring in a striker hopefully. So that's what I mean to say, where it's like those details are crucial to get done, and they take a bit of time. But the most important thing, and the reason why I'm not stressed, just to calm anybody down in the building that is stressed about the Wirtz deal, it's the fact that all indications, all the most reliable journalists are saying that he wants Liverpool, that he rejected Byron, and there's no reliable rumors that I've had said except reports from Spain. And we know the Spanish media like to stir the pot. They like to stir the pot for clicks and to be relevant and all that stuff, But guys, seriously, do not stress out right now, because like I said, all the most reliable journalists, David Ornstein, Paul Joyce, Fabrizio Romano, for me, those are my top three that I look at, right? One that's more international, that has connections all around, so Fabrizio. And then for me, the best in the UK are David Ornstein and Paul Joyce. They're the ones I look most at. And they both reported that he's chosen Liverpool over Byron. Like I said, none of them have said that Real Madrid are in it, except some reports from Spain, but they love to, like I say, stir the pot. They love to stir the pot. So guys, take a deep breath, because I haven't stressed, and just look at my energy right now. If I'm not stressing out, please don't stress out. Obviously, if things change from reliable sources that don't just look for clicks, because I want to make sure that I bring you guys only things that I've seen in the past be reliable, then don't stress, because there's just no point. You know what I mean? And I understand a lot of us have PTSD because of Real Madrid over the years. And of course, they have the biggest pulling power in football. I'm not going to hide from that fact. And also, right, there was the Lavia deal in the past and the Caicedo deals in the past. But this is very, very different. Why? Caicedo had already chosen Chelsea. I still looking back on how we completely made a fool of ourselves with that. I don't understand back then, because he had already chosen Chelsea, and we put in that record-breaking bid for Caicedo, right, when he was at Brighton, without even agreeing personal terms, which is crazy. And like I said, this is very different, because again, all the reports are saying he wants us over Byron. He's made that decision. He wants Liverpool. So like I said, personal terms shouldn't be an issue, but what's making this deal take time? Like I said, I'll bet you they're probably talking to Leverkusen saying, is there a player we can offer in exchange? Maybe a Harvey Elliott or someone else that can help bring that fee down. Not just that, but then also that fee. And it looks like we're trying to pay 120 to 140 million euros. Usually you don't pay fees unless it's release clauses. And even release clauses we're seeing don't have to all be paid up front. Apparently the Frimpong one can be paid in installments. But again, this deal, probably we're saying something like, listen, can we pay 80 million up front and then have 10 million if he wins, like a 10 million clause if he wins the Premier League, for example, if he wins the Champions League, can we have 30 million that we pay over 3 years? All of those kind of details that you can pay in installments, or triggers, like I said, like if he wins the Champions League with Liverpool, we pay them 10 million, stuff like that can ensure that we don't pay the highest possible fee right away, because we want to be busy this summer. So we don't want to put all of our money in the same window on a single player, even though, like I said, it's probably going to be big money up front still because it's going to be a record-breaking deal. But like I said, guys, don't stress. Don't stress because this is just how the real footballing world works. You know what I mean? These type of deals do take some time, and you have to respect that, you know, and that's what we're all looking out for. Nice to see you guys in the building. Reflex Expert says, when will Liverpool announce Frimpong? I think definitely this week. You know, Frimpong, the here we go has already come. So the deal is done. The deal is sealed. The only thing that's left now, he's flown into Liverpool. He was in Liverpool yesterday. So now I'll bet you they're probably, from a creative standpoint, shooting the release video for when it gets announced and editing it and all of that. So again, that kind of production takes some time to do. You know what I mean? It's not like they just get a picture and they announce it. Usually they like to do some fun things, and there's lots of production behind the scenes that takes time. You know what I mean? I used to work at PSG for a little bit, and I was working in the digital media team, and I got to see kind of how it worked behind the scenes at a big club as well, because obviously PSG is a big club too. And you know, these things take a lot of planning. It's not just like, oh, we agreed a deal, let's just take a picture of him, you know, at the AXA training ground and it's done. It takes a bit more time than that. But like I said, I think Frimpong will be this week for sure. I think it will be this week. But yeah, I wouldn't stress. One thing though, for any Lucho lovers in the building, I do think there's a chance of Lucho leaving this summer. And I'm sorry if there's any of you that love Lucho like me. I love him. But I am also realistic. You know, I don't want to be too deluded. And I do think that if a big offer comes in for Lucho this summer, that we'd let him go for a few reasons. And it seems like not only is he Barca's #1 transfer target, but he's also a top target for Saudi club Al Nassr. Right? Is it Al Nassr or Al Hilal? I think it's Al Nassr. Let me double check. That was a report from last night. From Al Nassr. Yeah, that's the club. So because Ronaldo is likely going to be leaving Saudi, it seems like they're going to bring in a big signing in those forward positions to kind of maybe take up the position of Ronaldo. I don't know, but apparently Al Nassr really want Lucho, and you know Saudi clubs are willing to pay big money. So I could see that happening this summer, unfortunately. What's up, young Trent Alexander? Nice to see you in the building. What's good? Boop makes gaming. I just can't believe that's real. What you're saying there about the United losing to in Malaysia, it's hilarious, bro. It's hilarious, but I do feel a bit for my United fan friends because it looks like that club is an absolute meltdown right now. So I feel a little bit bad for them because it just seems like. And then there was that video of like that them doing this like little bus parade thing in Malaysia, and it's not a good look for the club. Let's be real. Like the downfall of that club in just a few seasons is crazy. The Vicar says, I think Barca will get Rashford. Yeah, they are rumored to try to get him. Questionable 11 LFC, thank you. He's been a community channel legend member for 8 months. Legend. Who says, I don't think the Prem is the best league in the world because the refs are not the best. We're the only team affected, to be honest. We've benefited from it too. I do think from a competitive standpoint, we are the most competitive, the best league in the world. Questionable 11 LFC. So it just depends what metric you're looking at when you talk about best league in the world or not. You know what I mean? What metric? But I think on a competitive standpoint, it is the most competitive. And Slot knew that going into this season, where if you have your guard down, let's say you play your 80% against any team in the Premier League, you'll be hurt. You know, and that's not always the case in other leagues. Let's be real. Jalapeno says, Man United played a decent starting 11 too. It's shocking they lost. I know. It's shocking. But honestly, it's that, like, they're in that much of a meltdown, that football club right now, that I gotta be honest, I'm even feeling bad for my United fan friends because they never thought the club would be in this much of shambles. Like, not even in their worst imagination did they think the club would be finishing, 16th in the league and losing a cup final to Spurs and just like... that club is in big trouble financially, I think, too, because they didn't get to qualify for anything in Europe. So it's going to be a big problem. Young Trent says, this club is special, Leo. I know, the most special club in the world. And I feel that even more having gone to the parade. Let me tell you, I knew the parade was going to be crazy, but it blew my expectations. And now, like, just seeing what it meant to people and all the Reds I met, I'm gonna remember that day. That's my favorite trip to Liverpool that I've ever had. And I didn't even go to the game. The last game of the season in Crystal Palace. I couldn't get tickets, but it didn't matter. It was about being with fellow Reds and meeting Reds from all around the world. And man, like it was definitely the most beautiful trip I've done to Liverpool ever. Unbelievable. And it just shows how much this club means because it wasn't related to a game either, you know what I mean, or anything like that. Any updates on the Ekitike rumors to Liverpool? I heard a lot of you guys mentioning Ugo Ekitike. Plettenberg, who is a reliable journalist from Germany, he says that we are seriously interested in him, and apparently Edwards wants him. Apparently Richard Hughes wants him, and Anislot wants him. So I think Ugo Ekitike is a real target for us, you know, and he seems like a slot type striker that can play in that kind of false nine role, and yet he has goals to his game. You know, he scored, and he's really stepped up for Marmoush this season when he left for City, you know, when he left Frankfurt. But the only thing I will say is some of the rumored price tags that I've seen for him, that the fact that Frankfurt are apparently asking for something like 100 million euros, that I don't see us paying. No chance. I think the only way we get someone like Ugo Ekitike is if we're able to really negotiate on that fee. And I'm thinking 60 to 70 million, because paying 100 million for him, I don't see us doing that. Unless it's a world-class elite talent, like truly one of a kind, with which Florian Wirtz is. Florian Wirtz absolutely is a one of a kind, like talent like no other, you know. So that makes sense for me. That's plan A. Gaming with Akin says, if Liverpool fail to sign Wirtz, we have a plan B, which is Wirtz. I think that you got it spot on there, bro. That's the only one. Flirts is the only one we want. Kids World, what's good? Says there's a report that Madrid joined, bro. It's those reports are from the Spanish media. Nothing reliable I've seen from England or in Germany either. So I would not start stressing about those kind of rumors, because like I said, all the most reliable journalists did say he only wants Liverpool, and that's all I'm focused on. I'm not going to listen to some media from Spain that just want to make Real Madrid relevant 24/7, and they know anytime Real Madrid gets in the mix for anything, it just gets clicks. It just gets clicks, and that's what they look out for. You know what I mean? Do you think Wirtz is as good as Firmino from the UK? Isaac, nice to see you in the building. I think they're very different players. So, but what I will say is when Bobby joined us, he wasn't kind of the finished article. He still needed some time to adjust to the league, and I think to mature and stuff. And even though, yes, Wirtz has never played in the Premier League or in England, I think he's already an elite player. And Bobby Firmino, I think, became an elite player at Liverpool, but I don't think when he was playing at Hoffenheim that people were already saying he was elite. I don't think so. So I think also they're very different players, you know, Isaac. So I'm not going to compare the two, but I will say I do think Wirtz is already elite, and we almost never sign players who everybody recognizes to already be elite. That for me is the big difference. Even Mohamed Salah, when we signed him from Roma, trust me, like people have short memories, but I remember when we signed him, many people were like, why are we signing a player who flopped for Chelsea? And I even read a book from our recruitment team, where I think I have it over. Where is it? Oh yeah, this book, which talked about the race for Mohamed Salah. Have a look at this. It's called How to Win the Premier League, and it's written by Ian Graham, and Ian Graham was one of our main data guy that worked behind the scenes with the recruitment team with Edwards and everything. And he said, like, there's a section when we signed Mohamed Salah from Roma. He said there was barely any competition from English clubs to sign Mohamed Salah from Roma, even though he had a good season in Italy. Why? Because people thought he had flopped at Chelsea, even though he didn't get a proper opportunity. But it just shows, again, like a lot of people have short memories, where when I said, because I said it in a previous video or in a live maybe, I said, for me, if we sign Florian Wirtz, it would be our biggest marquee signing since I've been a Liverpool fan. It would be without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion. And then a bunch of people said, how could you forget Mohamed Salah? Guys, when we signed Mohamed Salah from Roma, trust me, nobody thought he would go on to become the player that he went on to become. And like I learned behind the scenes from this book, almost no clubs were in for him, top clubs I mean, because they feared that he quote unquote flopped at Chelsea before. And so again, big difference. Florian Wirtz is a player that today everybody would recognize gets in any team in the world. Today, he gets in Byron, he gets in Real, he gets in Barca, I don't care. He gets in every team. Obviously, City wanted him, and he said no. So he gets in any team in world football, and it looks like we've convinced him. and that's massive because, like I said, in my lifetime, we've never signed a player like that. So some of you might mention, what about Luis Suarez? Bro, he was playing at Ajax. Trust me. Back then, he wasn't recognized as this like elite, one of the very best players in the world. He went on to become that at Liverpool. But you have to remember, not at their time at Liverpool, before they signed. That's what you must remember. You know what I mean? What about Jorrel Hato to Liverpool? Jaya, I actually met some Dutch Liverpool fans on my trip on the train. And I asked them about Jorrel Hato because the guy that was on the train I was speaking to, he was a Liverpool fan from Amsterdam. So he also knew a lot about Ajax. And I asked him, what do you think about Jorrel Hato to Liverpool? Because he's watched him all throughout the season. He watches a lot of Ajax games. And he says he's an incredible talent, but he believes for his development, he should stay another 1 to 2 years at Ajax because he's still so young, and it's not like he's not going to have suitors in 1 to 2 years. So he thinks he probably wants to stay another 1 to 2 years, and he also thinks he's not quite ready to make the step up where he immediately starts for a club like Liverpool. You know what I mean? So he was saying, as a Dutchman who watches Ajax, he was like, does it make sense for him to join Liverpool to be just a squad player, and we see Slot doesn't rotate much, to just sit on the bench, or continue 1 to 2 more years at Ajax and start week in, week out, develop his game, learn and get a lot more experience, and then move to an even bigger club? Probably that makes more sense. You know what I mean? That's what he was telling me on the train. And hearing that, I was like, yeah, I can understand. Like, if I'm Jorrel Hato's agent and if I'm him, because of the level of talent, I don't think they're worried that in 2 years' time, no clubs will want him anymore. He's probably just going to be even better, because like I said, he is starting for Ajax, which is a club with some expectation, and pressure. So he will be learning and developing a lot there, But he did say if Liverpool signs him, they would be over the moon over it. Absolutely over the moon because of how incredible of a talent he is. So it's not, I could definitely still see it happening. You know what I mean? But like I said, I could also see him staying so that he continues to get game time and so that he stays there. Kids World says the price tag of Gyökeres is around 60 million. He's one heck of a striker. Bro, if Gyökeres is much cheaper than Ugo Ekitike, I would agree. We should go for someone like Gyökeres. The problem is, it seems like Arsenal have been trying to get him for a long while now, and then that probably means that they have the edge over us. You know what I mean? But again, I'm not so sure. Big up Zach, who's been a community support member for 16 months. Absolute legend, who says, if we sign Wirtz, we will win the Premier League again, bro. Every time I see Wirtz's name being mentioned in the chat, I just have this like massive smile to think that he could really join us. For me, I can't fathom that. Like, it's almost like when we won the Premier League, I don't think it's fully sunk in for me. And it definitely hasn't sunk in for me that Wirtz is an actual reality. Like, it could actually happen. It's just wild to me to think about that. You know what I mean? But man, we're blessed in this moment in time. Like, the pulling power of Liverpool. The fact that Kerkez is so desperate to join Liverpool. And Milos Kerkez is another player that, trust me, every top club in the world wants. Real Madrid were interested. City were interested. And he wants to go to Liverpool. Same from Frimpong. Frimpong, trust me, lots of clubs would have wanted him. United, City, lots of other clubs. And yet immediately he just chose Liverpool. So I'm just like, I'm buzzing at just like how attractive Liverpool looks as a club right now. It's just like, I'm too hyped. I'm too hyped for this summer, you guys. And to bring you some good news as well, for those of you in the building, I'm planning on going live a whole lot more so that we can talk about transfers. We can discuss next season and just be hyped in the building together, because it seems like it's going to be a very busy summer. So I want to make sure I get to, share my thoughts, hear your thoughts on potential transfers, potential outgoings, all that good stuff, So I appreciate all of you guys in the building. Wirtz in the Dom role. Yeah, I heard quite a few of you guys saying, what's going to happen to Szoboszlai if we sign Florian Wirtz? Trust me, Dominik Szoboszlai is way too good to be a bench player. If we're signing Florian Wirtz, it's because Slot has ideas on how to fit both of them in. How could that happen? I think Wirtz could play in the false 9 role. I think Wirtz could play on the left. I think he can play in the 10 role. I think Szoboszlai can play in the 6 role. In the 8 role. Szoboszlai can play kind of where Maka played. So there's many places where both Szoboszlai and Wirtz can play and have an impact in our team. So I wouldn't worry that this Wirtz signing all of a sudden means that Dominik Szoboszlai is going to be on the bench. He had a fantastic season. I think he'll be even better next season because he's young and he's obviously getting used to the Slot style of play. But guys, I wouldn't worry. I'm sure Slot has ideas on how he can integrate both of them and Maka and Gravenberch. So I would not be worried about that. Trust me. Slot is a proper tactician, so he'll have ideas. Many more ideas than I could ever have. So I'm not going to go too much in depth into that, But I just know Szoboszlai, is a very versatile midfielder. And he said, right, I think it was ahead of the Brighton game, I believe, right? He said that he prefers to play a little bit deeper in that kind of 8 role, which I think is the kind of role as one of the holding mids with Gravenberch. So I could see that happening as well. A lot of you guys I see are mentioning Victor Osimhen. What about him? He definitely will deliver you goals. I rate him highly. Why do I not think that one's going to happen? Because of the AFCON thing. I don't think we're looking to sign someone who is going to be bringing us lots of goals to leave at the same time as Mohamed Salah. This is just a reminder that AFCON this year, unfortunately, falls in an even worse time. It's in middle of December. So during the festive period, AFCON begins. So we're going to lose Mohamed Salah, who obviously is our prime. As we saw this season, pretty much all of our goals come from Salah. So whatever striker we sign, obviously, is someone to put a bit of pressure off for Mohamed Salah to be kind of our sole goal scorer. And therefore, I just don't see how we could take that risk of signing a goal scorer who would leave at exactly the same time as Salah during a crucial moment in the season. Because that AFCON, from what I've read, it will start kind of mid-December. And if for example, Egypt goes far into AFCON, it would be till the beginning of February. So that's why I don't think we're going to sign Osimhen, or I don't think we're going to sign an African striker that's going to go to AFCON at least. That's my personal prediction because of that reason I was saying. But I do think, I do rate Osimhen really highly, and I think whatever club he goes to, you're guaranteed goals. By the way, Liam Delap, it looks like just today, apparently he's chosen Chelsea. A lot of clubs were interested in him because he has a pretty low release clause. He has a release clause of around £30 million. And he probably had lots of proposals. He's chosen Chelsea. Probably because they're going to offer him like a 9-year deal, bro. That's probably why. And some crazy wages. But yeah, it looks like Liam Delap is off to Chelsea. Should we sign Alvarez? Andy, Alvarez for me is my number one target. I mean, after Wirtz, now that it looks like a reality, my number one dream is Julian Alvarez, but it's just not going to happen. Just like Alexander Isak is not going to happen. So for me, I'm not even dreaming about those two anymore. Why? I think both are in very similar situations. Newcastle got Champions League football with PSR. They're in a very healthy place, Newcastle, so they don't need to sell their stars. They apparently don't need to sell Bruno, Gordon, or Isak, just because, again, they're in such a healthy financial position after getting Champions League football, right? So why would Newcastle sell unless the only reason it could have happened is if he forced a move out, let's say they didn't get Champions League football, or if he maybe had 1-year deal and they want to cash in on him. But that's not the case, right? Because they got Champions League football. They're going to invest big this summer, so Newcastle will be even better next season, and they've had a fantastic season. They even won, right, the cup against us. So he's definitely staying, right? There's no reason for Newcastle to sell Alexander Isak. And then on the flip side of things, a lot of you guys are mentioning Julian Alvarez. For me, he's my dream, right? The Atletico president came out and said that he's not for sale at any price. Why? Similar situation. He just signed for Atletico Madrid for a big fee, by the way, 95 million euros. For La Liga clubs, that's a lot of money, right? Because there's less money in La Liga than the Premier League. Why would they sell him a year after getting him when, for example, if they decide to sell him next year, he's still going to have as much value, if not more, because he's a top player. He's still young. He has years left on his deal. So it just would make absolutely no sense for Atletico Madrid to sell him this summer unless he forced a move out. But why would he force a move out? Again, Atletico, it looks like, will invest in the summer as well. They want to be in a title race, and like, it's a good life in Madrid. You know what I mean? So again, I don't see him forcing a move out. They don't want to sell him. So those two for me are like, there's a 0% chance in my opinion of getting them. Both Isak and Alvarez. And that's why they're not even in my kind of tunnel vision for possible strikers. I think the other names we're mentioning, you guys mentioned Gyökeres, you mentioned Benjamin Sesko, you mentioned Hugo Ekitike. I think those are more possible options. They're more realistic, like without dreaming in a diluted way, if that makes sense, Zach says, I think Slot learned something from the PSG game. I think he wants to use his fullbacks like PSG are using theirs. They're both very attacking, but also capable defensively. Zach, I love that comment from you. And I agree. I think, honestly, Slot has been very inspired from this PSG team this season because they played beautiful football and they've obviously been very successful with it. And I think the other thing that he might have learned from this PSG team is, I mean, not learned, but been inspired from, because it's not like a new thing, right? Like Pep Guardiola, when he won the whole lot with City, they didn't really have an out-and-out striker like they do now. I think he also sees the way that he plays Dembele down the middle sometimes, or Desiré Doué, the way he kind of just has wingers playing in those front three positions. I think that could happen to us next season. I think there's a chance that we don't sign an out-and-out striker, but rather we play a Florian Wirtz in a false nine role or a Szoboszlai in a false nine role, and instead sign a winger, for example, because there's just more wingers available on the market. Maybe a Xavi Simons as well, because he can play on the left. He can probably play in a false nine role. So I think there's a very good chance, like I said, that we don't sign an out-and-out striker because he has a vision for that front three to be very fluid and to not be this traditional front three, which is like wingers putting into the box for a target man, like, for example, City do for Erling Haaland, for him to tap it in the box. I don't think that's the style of football that Slot is envisioning for next season. And that's why I think also probably we might not sign, like I said, an out-and-out striker, but very excited nonetheless because, for example, Florian Wirtz, people can say all they want about him not playing often as like a false nine, right? That's true when you look at the statistics. But let me tell you something. He has a lot of quality in the final third. Like I said, he had 30 goal contributions this season for Leverkusen. He had 38 goal contributions the season prior, right? In the never losing season. So it looks like he's going to be the Bundesliga player of the season 2 seasons in a row. 68 goal contributions from his last 2 seasons. Bro, that's a player that's going to either get you goals or assists in the final third. And that's why he's worth that crazy price tag, because he's just, he has the whole lot. He's a magician on the ball, but he's also lethal in the final third. And that's why I could see him playing in the false nine role. But again, maybe Szoboszlai too. We saw against Man City. Remember this season when we played Man City away, we won 2-0 at the Etihad. Szoboszlai started in that 9 role. He was leading the press and it was pretty successful. I thought we performed fantastically well, especially in that first half against City. And they didn't cause us too many problems. So, like I said, my personal prediction is we could really see a front three that kind of looks like that, Yusuf says, we can try Wirtz on the left wing, Gakpo as a center forward, Salah right wing, and Szoboszlai as a cam. That, I'm not so sure, Yusuf. I think we've seen Gakpo as a center forward before. I'm not a huge fan of that, I gotta be honest. The reason I don't love Gakpo down the middle is I think what he's really good at is cutting in from the left and shooting with his right foot. I don't want him having his back to the goal, So I can more so imagine a Wirtz having his back to the goal. Why? Because he's a magician on the ball. So I could see him in tight spaces being able to find some space, and setting up others, creating space for others. So I can much more imagine a Florian Wirtz in those kind of positions than a Cody Gakpo, because like I said, we saw that under Jurgen Klopp and I don't think it worked. And I think one of the reasons why he's had a much better season this time around is because Slot has played him in his preferred left wing position. And I think the moments where he's looked most dangerous this season, some of the beautiful goals he scored, has been when he's picked it up on the left hand side and he cuts it onto his right and he shoots it bottom or top right bins. That is very difficult to defend, and I think he's done that superbly well this season, JC says, please don't let Arsenal sign Gyökeres. I hope we can sign him or else we may lose to Arsenal next season. I agree. I don't want us to lose Gyökeres. I don't want Arsenal to sign Gyökeres either, because if they sign Zubimendi and Gyökeres, that's them strengthening in a major way. And they're going to be a much better team next season if they do that. And it looks like he's most likely going to be off to Arsenal. They've been targeting him for a long while now. LFC Alti, what's good? Nice to see you in the building. Eshal says, Leo, what do you think? No, Yanni Gaming says, what about Darwin? What will happen to him? I definitely think he's going to leave this summer. I think he'll either go to La Liga, maybe a club like Atletico, or Saudi. But the reason I definitely don't think he'll stay is because with how ambitious we want to be in the market this summer, we need to sell some players that will bring in major funds. And I think of all the potential players that could leave us this summer, I think Darwin or Lucho, but those two could bring us the most funds, so highest transfer fees that we could then reinvest, So, and also I think we got to see this season that Darwin just simply doesn't work for Slot. Otherwise, he would have played him more towards the end of the season to get him ready for next season. So I definitely think Darwin's time at Liverpool is up, and that he's gonna move on this summer. I think for me it's almost 100% sure. Isaac says, do you think there's a chance Wirtz can flop in England? I mean, nothing is ever a guarantee in football, but I do think Wirtz is just that good of a player. There's some players, no matter what country they play in, they're just going to be successful. I don't know why, just Luis Suarez, for example, popped in my head. For me, he's the best player I've seen play for Liverpool alongside Stevie G. I think Stevie G is an example. He plays in any country in the world. I don't care what the system is. I don't care how fast his style or how slow the football is in that country. He will succeed because he's just elite. And I think the same thing with Luis Suarez. You put him in Germany, Italy, Spain, whatever, he's going to be a difference maker because he's just that good. I think the same can be said for Florian Wirtz. Whether he plays, again, in Spain, Italy, or England, I think he finds a way to be successful because he's just that special. He's that class. Like that guy named Coco is saying. Absolutely. Champions! Yes, not. Do you think we should sign Ollie Watkins? I do like Ollie Watkins, but the problem is his age. We don't usually sign players within that age bracket. Unless he's available for some like crazy cheap price this summer, then you never know. But Ollie Watkins is 29 years old. He's turning 30 this year. Usually that's not the type of striker that we go for, or that type of kind of age bracket that we go for. So I don't see that one happening because probably Jota will stay as like a squad player, like a backup in the striker position. And if that's the case, then he has that experience. So he's kind of in the older age bracket at least. I mean, he's not that old, but you know what I'm saying. So I don't think we'll sign Ollie Watkins. I don't think so. Yeah, actually, no, he is turning 29 this year, to be fair, Diogo Jota. He's 28 right now, but in December, similar to Watkins, Watkins turns 29 turns 30 in December. Diogo Jota turns 29 in December. So they're just 1 year apart, basically. Do you think Gakpo will leave? No, I think Gakpo will stay. I think there's a much bigger chance Lucho leaves. Yes, Byron are rumored to want Cody Gakpo, but I don't think we'd let him go for anything below 80 million. And I don't think Byron are going to spend 80 million on Cody Gakpo. I just don't see that happening. I don't. Uchiwa, are you from Japan? Who says, hi Leo, I think we do need a 9. Also, whether it's Gyökeres, Ekitike, etc., because Premier League teams tend to analyze their opponents well, we should have another card in our hands to create a surprise. To be fair, Uchiwa, I do think Jota is a proper number 9. I do think he's a number 9. He's a poacher in the box. Fox, I do think he'll end up staying. That's my prediction. I think there's a bigger chance Darwin and Lucho leave. So if Jota stays and he's kind of a player that's in and out of the team, I do think he could be our kind of wild card. And we've seen this season, I think back to the Forest game, I think he's a fantastic option to have on the bench to come on for impact. He definitely did that away at Forest. So I could see Jota being that type of player. So I think we kind of do have that in the team if he stays. You know what I mean? Luis Garcia says Deco and Hansi Flick prefer Lucho over Rashford. I can understand why. But like I said, it seems like Liverpool, we won't sell. I don't think we'll sell for anything less than 80 million. And that's a lot for Barca to pay. So if they can't pay that, Rashford is probably their next best option. You know what I mean? So I think there's probably a bigger chance Lucho goes to Saudi right now than Barca. Even though he's Barca's top priority signing, like I said, I'm not so sure they're able to fork out that much money, whereas Saudi we know is filled with money, you know. So when do you think they'll announce the signings? They might have to wait till the 1st of June, honestly, because that's when the window actually opens. So I think probably for example, Frimpong definitely will be the first because the Here We Go's already come. It might not. I'm not so sure actually that it could be before Sunday. Sunday is June 1st, right? The Champions League finals on the 31st. I think if anything, we'd probably have to wait till Sunday, June 1st, because yeah, like I said, that's when the transfer window officially opens. So I'm not sure they're actually able to officially announce it before then, if I'm being perfectly honest, actually, now that I think about it. Who do you think will win the Ballon d'Or? I think it's going to be either Lamine Yamal or Rafinha. One of the two. Unless Dembele scores a hat trick in the Champions League final, that would change my mind. I just hope we don't lose both Wirtz and Kirkes because of this. Nah, bro. We trust me, they're pushing hard on both. That's what all the most reliable rumors are saying. All the most reliable journalists. Yes, Umar, thank you. I'm all good. What do you think will happen with Kelleher? Sauce, he's definitely leaving. And it seems like the club where he's going to go to looks very likely at this point is Brentford. Why? Because it looks like Flecken, their key. Wait, is it Flecken? Wait, let me check. Flecken? Is that right? Yeah, Flecken. The current goalkeeper of Brentford, Mark Flecken, he's Dutch. It looks like he's off to Bayer Leverkusen. So they they're going to need a number one goalkeeper, Brentford, and it seems like their top option is Kelleher. So I think he's going to go to Brentford. That's my personal prediction. But he's 1,000% leaving the club this summer because obviously Georgi Mamadashvili is coming in and he doesn't want to be he doesn't want to go out on loan again. So he's going to be the number two to Alisson, Georgi Mamadashvili, next season. So it would make no sense to keep Kelleher as a number three. He's way too good to be number three. Just graduating. Congratulations, Ultimate Football. Did you have a proper graduation ceremony? Hi, Brawl Lover. Nice to see you in the building. What's good? We're talking all things transfers. All things transfers. Why not Salah win? I wish, trust me, I wish. But the problem is, he didn't do as well towards the end of the season. And so I think there's a bigger chance that one of the two Barca attackers get the Ballon d'Or. Like I said, I think it's going to be either Rafinha or Lamine Yamal because they did also end the season in a strong way. Yes, Pratik, I am live streaming the Champions League final on Saturday night. For those of you that can make it, I'm actually, after this stream, I will draft it. That's going to be on Saturday night. Do you think there may be too many changes to the team? Eddie, I'm not worried about that. Why? Because the most important thing is the most grounding the grounding structure I think will remain there. And Alisson, obviously in goal. Virgil is still going to be there. Maka, I think, is our leader kind of in midfield, and then Salah up top. So I think in every area of the pitch, we're going to have those like kind of leaders with experience who are, winners that are going to be in that dressing room, but also on the pitch. And so long as we have that kind of all of those leaders that still remain and know what it's like to be a Liverpool player so they can mentor the new players coming in, I think it's not a problem how many leave. And I do think many players will leave. I think 5, 6, 7 players could leave this summer. And that's why I think it's going to be a very busy summer for us. But am I worried that means there's going to be too many changes for next season? No, because like I said, the grounding characters will still remain, Mies says, do you think we should sign Joe Bellingham? Nah. I think it would be nice if he stayed at Sunderland because they got promoted, so it would be nice to see him play with them in the Premier League. But I don't think we're gonna go for it. I don't think so. No, I don't see that one happening. Exactly. That's what I meant to say. The spine. Most of the spine will stay. So continuity of the first time should be strong for the new people. Exactly that. And, just experienced winners. Like Maka is now, right, a Premier League winner, but he's also a World Cup winner. And the fact that it's in every area of the pitch is what I love as well. Because like I said, you have Alisson in goal, Virgil leading the defense, Maka leading the midfield, and Mohamed Salah leading the attack. So that spine, like you said, is definitely there. And that's brilliant for any, for example, young player like Florian Wirtz who comes in because they have those kind of leaders that they can count on that will help them, get adjusted to the club, that will make them realize also just what it means to be a Liverpool player, Like I think they know by now kind of the expectations and the work that you have to put in behind the scenes to make sure that you win the biggest titles, because when you come to Liverpool Football Club, it is to win the biggest titles. So having those proven winners who have been here for so many years, that spine was so important to keep. And that's why I do think extending Virgil and Salah was more important than Trent, because I think they're bigger leaders than Trent is, in my opinion. Even though Trent was our vice captain, I see them as bigger leaders. Kids World says your top 5 Ballon d'Or choices. I think you'd have to say Lamine Yamal, Salah, Rafinha, Dembele, and then for the fifth player, I'm not sure who that fifth player is. Everybody could have an opinion, but I at least think that top 4 is for sure. I would maybe say Pedri for fifth, but it probably is pretty unfair not to pick like an Inter player given how well they've done in the Champions League. Maybe someone like Lautaro Martinez, I don't know. But at least the top 4, I think, has to be Salah, Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, and Ousmane Dembele. I think that has to be the top 4. And then you can choose. What number is Wirtz going to get? I'm not so sure, bro. I'm not so sure. He's obviously the number 10 for Leverkusen right now, but I don't think he would get the number 10 for us. You would go for Lewandowski? Do you think Gomez will leave? That's another player that could potentially leave. It all depends on how big of offers they get for certain players, But one thing that we need to do, bro, we need to extend Ibu Konate, bro. We need to extend Ibu Konate. 27, yeah, that could happen. He'll want number 27. Well, that's free, so he could do it. He could do it for sure. Yo, Zulu Mentality says, hi Leo, hope you're good. Sorry I didn't join the stream yesterday. Exam season got me, bro. Good luck on your exams. Good luck on these exams. Should we sign a DM? Ivan, I don't think that's priority. We were saying before, I think priority is, I guess Wirtz. I didn't initially think a player like Wirtz was priority, but clearly it is because he's that special of a talent. But the fullback positions, which we're going to get, hopefully Frimpong, Gyökeres, then I think the next 2 positions to get is a striker or another attacker and a center back before we think about a DM. Gam says, if it was your choice, would you go with a world-class 9? The problem is, like I was saying before, I don't think a world-class 9 is available in the market. The only 2 that I think about are Alexander Isak and Alvarez, and they're unobtainable this summer. So I don't like to play like a hypothetical game because the reality is we can get Wirtz this summer. He's leaving Leverkusen. So for me, it's not between a world-class 9 and a Wirtz. For me, it's between like a not so proven number 9, like a Benjamin Sesko or a Hugo Ekitike or a Florian Wirtz. And if you're giving me that option, I'm going like a recruitment team. I would rather get a Florian Wirtz, who is top class. So that's like the reality of the market. You have to also be somewhat realistic, in some of those positions. Abzinho says Leo, Gakpo or Lucho. I have a feeling they're so different that I really think it depends on the game. But I do think Lucho is more versatile. I think Lucho, he proved this season that he can do a job on the right on down the middle. He's proven in the past he can. I think it was against Arsenal he scored when he was playing right wing. So for me, Lucho is a more valuable player in your team because he is more versatile. And I think Gakpo is great as a left winger, but I don't think he's great as a center forward or as a right winger. So I think overall Lucho has more worth to the team, but like I said, Gakpo is younger, and therefore he has more space to develop his game. That's the thing, you know. Big up Liverpool FC Vlogs. Thank you very much for that kind super chat. I want W's in the building for Liverpool FC Vlogs, who says, our team is going to be sick next season, Leo. Anyways, keep up the content. Gutted we didn't meet you for a pint, so here's 10 for a pint or two. Up the Reds. Thank you. Where were you during the parade, by the way? Where were you? But yeah, it's crazy how our season only just ended, right? Our last game of the season was on Sunday, and I already am impatient for next season to start and for this transfer window and for everything. And that's why we gotta cherish these moments. All the Reds in the building, cherish these moments, because I cannot remember us going into a transfer market this strong, and being that optimistic about the future. It's absolutely incredible the position we're in. Obviously, we need here we goes for Kirkez, and we need a here we go for Wirtz still. But man, it's looking so promising. We're Premier League champions, and it seems like all the players want to join us if we go for them, which is just absolutely brilliant. Cesar says, do you think Kelleher deserves to leave the club to become a number one goalkeeper? 100%, because there's no chance that happens at Liverpool. Like I said, Georgi Mamadashvili just said recently in an interview that he's not going to go out on loan, that next season he's 100% going to be a Liverpool player, and therefore it would just make no sense for him to compete with those two top keepers, and he's just not going to get much. He's not going to get much playing time. You know what I mean? Kian says start Bradley or Frimpong. That's the brilliant news. They're very different players. Obviously, Frimpong is more attacking. I would say Connor Bradley is more complete. And that's what I think will happen to Arne Slot next season. And that's why I think he's so excited to have two completely different options where, depending on our opponent, depending on the moment in the game, he can utilize one or the other. And to have that kind of those two top options is such a luxury for any manager in the world, and I think Slot will be absolutely buzzing about that. Kaden says, hey Leo, I went to a Charlotte FC game and my favorite Charlotte player, Pep, signed my shirt. That's sick. Congrats. Kids World says, why don't you think Gyökeres is not world class? Because he hasn't done it in a top league. I wouldn't say the Portuguese league is a top league, and that's why I wouldn't put him in that kind of bracket just yet. Whereas for me, Wirtz has proven, for example, at the Euros, he was one of the best players. He was absolutely outstanding in the Bundesliga, and for me, that's why I can put him in that bracket. But internationally, I haven't seen enough from Gyökeres, and I haven't seen him in one of the top leagues. So that's why for me, I wouldn't put Gyökeres. Not saying he's a bad player by any means, but I don't think you could say he's world class yet, because he hasn't been proven at that level. But then you say, what's your thoughts on Girassi? I think, again, same. We were talking about Watkins before. I think he's too old. That's why I think we're not going to go for him, because he's 29, right? So that's not the type of age bracket we usually go for. Graham said, can you sum up? Graham, if you could just go to the very beginning of the live stream, then you'll be able to in the very beginning of the live stream, I think I was very clear about opinions on the current Wirtz deal. If you just want to go back to the very beginning, it's only a few 2 minutes, I would say, probably. Football King, I'm sorry to hear that. He's been released from the hospital. You'll never walk alone. That's so good to hear. but I'm sorry for the distress you must have felt the last few days. Serge, nice to see you in the building. What's good? Hello, Harry Thomas in the building as well. Is Harvey leaving? I think he's definitely one of the players that will likely leave this summer, yes. The way he spoke, the last few interviews, it seemed like he's going to look for a new challenge because he's just barely getting game time under Slot this season. And I don't see how he would get more game time next season. Kian, I would keep Stefan Bajcetic. I'm a big fan of his, but it all depends on the opinion because now after his season at Las Palmas, he's going to be on holiday like the rest of the team. Once the team regroups for preseason, he'll be part of that preseason tour. I think that's where Slot is going to make up his mind. He's going to see him in training. He's going to get to know him better personally. He's going to get to see his mentality and then see how he could suit the team, But I think by the end of preseason, we'll have our answer whether Stefan Bajcetic will play a part in the team or whether he goes out again on loan or if he leaves on a permanent. You know what I mean? Yes, I am. Oscar on tour. Thank you for your message. Ivan says, do you think we would go for Wirtz if Trent wasn't leaving? Yes, I think we'd still be going for Wirtz. I don't think we'd be going for Frimpong, though. That's for sure. But Wirtz, yes. I think we were always keeping that money for a player that's that outstanding in the market. And look, people can say, oh, Gravenberch has been incredible. But look at, in this very bad Chelsea team, look how good Caicedo has been this season. I think there's certain players in the world that we've been looking at for years where if they become available and if they leave their club, we're willing to spend big money. I think we see them as like outliers, like players that come into the team and immediately elevate us a few gears. You know what I mean? And I think Florian Wirtz is that type of player that they see where even though it's crazy money, he's that good that he just elevates us to another place. You know what I mean? Zach says, I can already see the Ibu and Frimpong duo. Yeah, bro, the vibes would be incredible. The vibes would be incredible. Are the Ekitike rumors true? Yeah, it seems like we do want him. But again, I don't see us paying over 60 to 70 million for him. So it's only if Frankfurt are willing to negotiate. That's the only way I see it happening. Only if they're able to negotiate, I think, at least. Ropro's Galaxy says, hey Leo, do you think Szoboszlai will play striker next year? He has the technical ability and technique plus speed, so do you think he will? I think there's a chance of it. We saw it against City. I mentioned it against Man City away at the Etihad. We won 2-0. We played really well. He played in that kind of false nine role. I could definitely see that happening. But what I can see happening as well is Florian Wirtz and Szoboszlai playing in those more attacking central positions and there being a fluidity between the two. I think that would be brilliant for us. And Slot has said in the past, he's been asked in interviews, what formation are you going to play at Liverpool? Are you going to play a 4-3-3 or are you going to play a 4-2-3-1? And his response was like, I'm not going to have one way of playing. It's not just going to be like one way and we play that way, which it seems like Ruben Amorim it is. It seems like with this formation. But everything I've heard from Slot, when he actually breaks down kind of his philosophy, it seems like it's all about fluidity. It's all about having a plan A, B, C, D, where depending on moments in the game, we're versatile in the way that we can set up. We're versatile in the way we can react to maybe going a goal down or maybe going a goal up, So I think what would be really brilliant as well is if Szoboszlai and Wirtz kind of interchange in those positions. Imagine how difficult it would be to defend if, like, for example, for 10 minutes, we know Szoboszlai is incredible with his pressing. He's incredible stamina and speed. Imagine he like presses the defense for 10 minutes and gets them really tired and stuff like that. And then 10 minutes later, we have Wirtz that goes into that position and just creates different problems. So I think there's a really good chance that, like, I just think that sounds really brilliant in terms of how difficult it is to defend. Those two kind of interchanging depending on what's going on in the game. And I'm just thinking from the opposition point of view, that's so difficult because it's like they might have one game plan on how to defend us, but we have many different game plans on how we can hurt them. And I personally think that's what Slot has in mind. He knows that a player like Florian Wirtz can can hurt a team in many different ways. He's versatile. He's played in different positions in the attack. And again, depending on what he learns about his opposition and depending on what's going on in the game, we can change things up. That's what I think will happen. And I think that's what Luis Enrique has done at PSG. I think one of the reasons why PSG have been outstanding this season is because of how kind of unpredictable their attack is, and they have so many kind of different weapons. And I think Slot literally said in an interview, he mentioned it like a weapon. I think it's kind of like that. These attackers who are very, very good technically, and they can just hurt you in different positions on the pitch. And that's what I think Slot will do next. I think there's a good chance Slot was inspired by this PSG team, who I think probably have played the best football this season. I mean, you don't get to the Champions League final by being lucky. You know what I mean? And I think we can all recognize, at least I know after the second leg when PSG beat us, even though it was very close at Anfield, right? We only just lost by penalties. I think all of us can hold our hands up and say that PSG were the better side over 2 legs. You know what I mean? Yo, Introvert, nice to see you in the building. Hello. What's good? Faisal says, the main problem Slot faced was breaking the low block. Enter Wirtz. Yeah, bro. Oh my God. God damn. But you see, even if, for example, Lucho were to leave this summer, which could happen, I think we could even still bring in a player like Xavi Simons because he is versatile in the attacking positions. You know, so I wouldn't count that out either, even if we also sign Wirtz. Because, yeah, I think we're going to just want technical players who, like you said, there's going to be lots of teams that will play low blocks against us. There's no doubt about that. Big up Lazy Iguana. Is it? I think that's Mohamed Salah, right? Your profile picture? It's very small, but Lazy Iguana, thank you for the super chat. He says, what do you think of Nick? I haven't watched him enough. Walt made. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I haven't watched him enough. Lazy Iguana, you'd have to tell me. To the Reds. Again, I can't have an opinion on a player I've barely watched. Agrawal says, who's your ideal striker, Leo? I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not sure. The reason I'm not sure is because, like we were saying before, initially I would have said Julian Alvarez, you know? But he's not available this summer. Isak's not available this summer. And if you're mentioning those other names, Hugo Ekitike, Gyökeres, and Benjamin Sesko, none of them excite me that much. But obviously, if we went for one of those 3 and our recruitment team and Slot back them to succeed, then I would be very excited about the move if it ended up happening. But when I've looked at those 3, none of them really excite me that much, I gotta be honest. None of them excite me that much. But again, if we ended up going for them, I would be all for it because I just trust our data guys and the work we've done behind the scenes in the recruitment of whoever that striker will be. By the way, Fabrizio, again, confirmed that it looks like Chelsea are going to be the ones that get Liam Delap because he would have had quite a few suitors this summer. Thoughts on Gakpo rumors to Byron? I think it's very unlikely that one happens. Why? Because I think we wouldn't sell him for less than 70 to 80 million, and I don't see Byron spending that much on a player. I don't quite see it happening. W says, Leo, what's your opinion on Michael Kayode? I think he's an underrated baller. He can play center back and right back. He's been very good for Brentford. Bro, I used to sign him on Football Manager in his Fiorentina days. He was so good, but isn't he much more of a right back? I didn't think he was a center back because he's not that tall, right? Let me check. Uh, yeah, he's the one from Fiorentina. He's actually just on loan, but he's still just 20 years old, so he's a wonder kid. But I'm pretty sure he just plays right back, bro. Yeah, look, I don't think he really plays center back. And he's really not that tall. He's only a little bit taller than me, and I'm short. He's 1 meter 79. So, nah, I don't see us signing another right back because that's, again, his kind of his most comfortable position is right back. So we're already signing Frimpong. So we're gonna have Connor Bradley and Frimpong there already. There's no way we go for him. Did Brentford outright buy him? Wow. No, he's all I know is on Football Manager. He's one of the best players that I always sign. Back when I used to play, he was incredible from Fiorentina. Should sign a striker who has a lot of potential. Yes, but I also think we need to sign a player who can come in and right away perform. Because if we're just talking about potential, then there's no doubt Darwin has a ton of potential. You know what I mean? And he's not old at all. He's 25. So, yes, it's great to have a young player who has potential, but I also don't think we're going to sign a player who just has potential, because then you could say Jadon Danns has tons of potential. Like, we also need to sign a player who's going to come in and right away perform, you know? Which Florian Wirtz definitely will do. Definitely Florian Wirtz will do. Kids World, I started supporting Liverpool when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and my first memories were just a young Stevie G playing for Liverpool. Around 2006, 2007. Hold on, I'm going to put on slow mode right now because there's too much spamming. Yo, Jackie in the building. Nice to see you. Jack, how are you? My brother. Me brother. Openda. Bro, I got to see him live this season, Jack. I went to the Leipzig game. Openda, I've heard he's very fast, and he's definitely someone that offers you pace, which I know we apparently really want in our team. But it seems like the pace that we want in our team is just going to be coming from the fullback positions, because we're going to be hopefully signing Gyökeres, and we're going to be signing Frimpong, who both are very, very fast. But Openda, again, not the finished article, you know, and he's still going to cost a lot of money. So if we're talking about a player who has a lot of potential but isn't going to come in and do the business right away, then we might as well keep a player like Darwin, because he has bags of potential. He has pace. He can run in behind, you know. And Openda hasn't proven that he's this crazy goal scorer, unless I'm getting the numbers wrong from the top of my head. But let me check. Yeah, you see, like, he has 9 goals from 33 Bundesliga games. He does have 5 assists, which is good, but, like, you know what I mean? From 33 games, 9 goals. For me, that's not like someone who's going to come in and score a ton of goals. So, Maestro says, confirmed Lucho is going to stay at Liverpool because Barcelona think the 85 million fee is too high. The only thing is, apparently Saudi really want Lucho. So, if Saudi go for him, I don't think they'd be too worried about I don't think they'd be too fussed about the price tag. I don't think they'd be too concerned about that. So I could see that happening, unfortunately. Sobo fan, of course I remember you. What's good? I was wondering if it was confirmed that Wirtz will come. Dario not confirmed yet. The Here We Go hasn't come yet, but he has chosen us over Byron. So right now we're in the midst of negotiations. Medieval says, I started supporting Liverpool in 1973. So who's the best Liverpool player you've ever watched in their prime? Who would you say is the best you've ever watched? Do you think we'll sign a center back this summer? Definitely. And we could even sign 2 if Kwanzaa ends up leaving, which apparently there's a whole host of English clubs that want Jorrel Kwanzaa and Bundesliga clubs. But we apparently want £50 million or thereabouts. So if someone does go for Kwanzaa this summer, they'd have to pay big money. But like I said, if he leaves, I think we need to sign 2. But before any of that, what's for sure is we need to extend Ibu Konate. We need to extend Ibu Konate. Also, Jack, what happened to the Knicks? I can't watch the games, right? Because they're just too late at night. But I saw the Knicks are 3-1 down against the Pacers. What happened to the Knicks, bro? I thought they were going to win the whole lot this season. Medieval, who's been watching Liverpool since 1973, says Stevie G is the best player you've ever watched. Yeah, I would say Stevie G and Luis Suarez in that 2013-14 season, for me at least. Yo, Brandon, Mighty Reds. Nice to see you in the building. Who says, hey, bro, how are you, bro? I'm buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing. You got to see some of the scenes, bro, from the parade, but if I could just describe to you, because I know that it's, and that's why I'm so glad I was able to put some of those videos out for those that couldn't make the parade, because I know for you how difficult it is being based in South Africa, and I know many others in the building are actually based in South Africa as well, but also just places where it's very difficult to get to Liverpool. Let me tell you something. I obviously knew our fan base was the best in the world, but I have to say, I was blown away to another level on Monday. Like I not in my wildest imaginations did I think I would see the scenes that I saw and the faces that I saw and the families and the passion and the just everything on that Monday. Like I'm anytime I'm gonna think back on that day now, I'm just gonna feel all the emotions because I just see that how much it means to people on a different level than even what I imagined, honestly. And it blew me away. It absolutely blew me away. And I think now, honestly, if we're trying to sign a player, but it doesn't seem like we're struggling to convince players anyways, because look, Wirtz has rejected Byron for us. But honestly, instead of doing some boring old presentation, like you just show the scenes from that parade, the fact over 1 million people came. For me, if I'm a player, like I want to play for people where it means that much, you know? And I would just show scenes from the parade because seeing that, I'm just like, holy, this club, the passion within this club, holy moly. Fuzia says Spurs have had a more successful season than Arsenal, yeah, because I do think so this season. Because they got Champions League football and they won a trophy, whereas Arsenal just got Champions League football. So I think on paper, you'd have to say that would be true. You know what I mean? Lazy Iguana, thank you very much for becoming a community support member. I want you spamming those emojis, and hopefully soon we'll be bringing new emoji stickers. We're going to be bringing in Frimpong, hopefully Kirkez, and Florian Wirtz. Hopefully very, very soon. Is the Frimpong deal complete? Yes, the Here We Go has come from Frimpong. But the Kirkez and Wirtz ones, we haven't agreed a fee just yet. Like, it's not fully done. Those other two. Hydro says, watching Suarez at Liverpool when I was 7 was what made me fall in love with the club. He was unbelievable. He's the best player I've watched play for Liverpool alongside Stevie G. Those are my top two, that in my lifetime at least. And Salah has to be there too. But the problem is I've only seen Mohamed Salah in good teams. I saw Suarez and Stevie in bad teams, and they could drag the teams on their own. But I feel like Salah could do that too. So I have to put Salah in there as well. Has to be Salah, Stevie, and Suarez. Maestro Pedri says, you guys are so lucky to have a player like Endo, effective, humble, and content enough to be on the bench. What a player, what a guy. And he has so much quality. I'm so glad he wants to stay at the club because he's a fantastic, like you said, team player to have. Fantastic. Your guy, my day's been good. Thank you, bro. How's your day been? I gotta be honest, still very tired from the last 4 days I spent in the UK because they were so intense. But some of the most beautiful days. But I'm still like tired from that. Really tired. Should we keep Stefan Bajcetic? I would. But again, Slot is the one that's going to get to see him on the training pitch. He's going to get to test him out in preseason, and he'll get to make the decision. So I'll trust whatever decision Slot makes because he has more insight than I do. But I definitely think he has enough quality to be a Liverpool player. That there's no doubt about from what we got to see. Mind tripping. It seems like Byron are interested in Gakpo, but I definitely don't think that we would go in for him. unless no that they could sign him unless they were willing to pay a huge fee like 70 to 80 million, which I just don't see happening. You know what I mean? Agraval says, as a 15-year-old, the best I've seen by eye test has to be Coutinho. Oh, he was a magician, especially the last 6 months. My goodness, was he incredible. My goodness, was he incredible. Mighty Red says, bro, Suarez was absolutely outrageous. You never knew what he was about to do. One thing you could guarantee is that he wouldn't be coming off the pitch without a nutmeg. Yeah, bro. And Mighty Reds, I was so blessed to do too is, I got to know Jose Enrique, who obviously played with him. And I asked him a bit about Suarez, and he told me what's crazy about Luis Suarez is he's exactly the same in training as he is in games. He's just a monster. Like the pressing, the energy. He's just like, he's a nightmare to be up against because he's just, like you said, you really never know what he's going to do. So for me, probably individual season, for me, it's the best I've ever seen. That 2013-14 season. Because yeah, we were not a good team and he could do it all. He got so many assists. I mean, he's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. But again, when we signed him from Ajax, no one saw that coming. I remember when it happened. No one saw that coming. So I still go back to it. For me, if we end up getting Florian Wirtz over the line, for me, it's the biggest marquee signing in my lifetime, at least. In my lifetime. Maybe older Reds can say someone like King Kenny, when he came in. But for me, at least, the biggest marquee signing has to be Florian Wirtz, because no one thought Suarez would go on to do what he did when we got him from Ajax. No one saw Salah doing what he was going to go on to do when we signed him from Roma. You could say the same about like Sadio Mane from Southampton. We didn't see those. We didn't see it going to the level that they did. We didn't see that coming. Sauce says, how many more signings do you think we'll make after these three? It's really hard to say. I think it just depends on how many outgoings we'll have. But I wouldn't count out us potentially signing 5 to 6 players this summer, depending on how many leave. I really think it's possible, given the amount of rumors I'm seeing about, for example, Kelleher leaving, potentially Kwanzaa. Trent obviously has already left. Costas could potentially leave. Tyler Morin will leave. Darwin could leave. Lucho could leave. Harvey Elliott. I have like 7 to 8 names that I think could very likely leave. You know what I mean? So, Mighty Red says, when's the last time you spoke to Jose? I hope he's doing well. He'd be great to get on the Red family. Yes, Mighty Reds. The only thing is he's so busy now with his agency work that I even barely talk to him anymore. So... yeah, I did. The last time I spoke to him was actually on Monday. I sent him a picture from the parade because I met one of his good friends there that we had met through Jose before. So we took a selfie and I sent it to Jose. And we were like, we wish you were here. And he said like he sent his best. But I don't talk to him as much, mainly because, like I said, Mighty Reds family, now he is a kid. And the agency work is so intense. I actually met an agent. The agent of Fernando Torres I actually met on Monday, and I spent hours talking to the agent of Fernando Torres, and he's the agent of quite a lot of other footballers. But I got to know a lot more of the inside of what it's like to be an agent at that top level, and it's crazy how intense that line of work is. And obviously Jose is now an agent, but he also loves his family time. So I think anytime he's not working, he's not really on his phone. He's just wanting to be with family. So that's one of the reasons why I don't speak to him as much, but yeah, he's a top man. Yo, Alinus, nice to see you in the building. Dalen is in the building too. How's it going? Alinus, you weren't at the parade, were you? Where did I get my Firmino poster at the back? I just went to print it at the shop. I printed it myself. Dario, I can send a link to become a A member, hold on, I'll send you a link if you want to become a member. Jaden, nice to see you in the building. I had no idea he started an agency. Good for him. He works in an agency. In an agency. So it's not his own, but he's a football agent now. But yeah, like I said, from what I've heard, it's one of the most intense lines of work. One of the most intense lines of work that you can have, so I can totally understand. Like if I had work that was that intense and I had a kid, anytime I wouldn't be working, I would just want to spend family time off my phone, you know what I mean? Would I take Embuemo from Brentford? Depends on the fee. If it was like 30 to 40 million, yes. If it's like 50 to 60 million, then no, Being in one of the random streams, yeah, this is a spontaneous one because I saw how much a lot of people were freaking out. I was seeing that and I was like, damn, we need to calm down, guys, because nothing is saying the Wirtz deal has fallen through or anything like that. And trust me, they'll know that they need to hurry on it in case another club like Real Madrid comes into the mix. Lukeba from Leipzig, that could be an option for sure. Again, if Edwards and Richard Hughes want a player like that and Slot is sold on him, then I'm all for it. That's the way I see it. If we could guarantee to get Embuemo, would you sign him? The thing with him is his best position is right wing, so I think he's just too good to be on the bench. You know what I mean? He's really good on it, like from the right-hand side turning onto his left, right? So I don't think that signing makes so much sense. I don't think it does because Salah is here for another 2 years. And like I said, I don't think he wants to be second fiddle. I think there'll be many clubs that will be interested to sign him this summer where he gets right into the starting 11, He's Nova. The thing, though, that's very different about the Caicedo and Lavia sagas is the fact they had already agreed to join Chelsea, and we just came in too late. The difference here is Florian Wirtz, we've been there since the beginning, and he said that he wants Liverpool over Byron. So it's a very different situation, Very, very different situation. Oh God, I was about to fall. Brendan says, super keen to finally have a Coutinho type player in the team again. His work rate is crazy as well. Yeah, Coutinho type player, but I think he could be better. That's the crazy thing. And no, obviously with all due respect for Coutinho because he was an unbelievable player for us. But I think with Wirtz, he offers you probably more versatility. I think Coutinho's best position was kind of in that midfield role in the center. Apparently Florian Wirtz is really great on the left wing as well. So I think he's probably a bit more versatile. And like you said, his pressing energy and just, I'm too hyped. I mean, just whenever I see that name anywhere now, bro, whenever I see Wirtz mentioned anywhere, I just get too hyped because if that actually happens, like I said, it would be the biggest marquee signing in my lifetime of being a Liverpool fan. And it would also just send such a message to the rest of the league and world football that we really mean business, to have won the league title and to have only lost on pens to PSG, who could really go on to win the Champions League. It just shows that we mean business. And also signing Frimpong and potentially Gyökeres, So yeah, it's a special time to be a Red. That's for sure. Big up Liverpool fans 01. Thank you for being a channel legend member for half a year. Who says, hi Leo, I'm so sorry for not being in the streams lately. I've been busy with exams and discussing a transfer from Ajax to Dortmund. What are you talking about, discussing a transfer from Ajax to Dortmund? But good luck, bro, on your exams, and good luck to anybody else in the building that's taking exams in this moment in time, because I know you're definitely not the only one. Bro, I'm so excited for the Champions League next season too. Imagine if in the league stage, right in the beginning, we get Real Madrid and they come to Anfield and Trent has to come back to Anfield as a Madrid player. Imagine what the atmosphere would be like. This wait for preseason is going to feel like an eternity. Mighty Reds, bro, Brendan, I was just saying that because, bro, like, our last game of the season was on Sunday, right? I'm already so impatient for preseason, and we're what, like 3 days after? Like, this is gonna be bad. But at least we can really have engaging discussions around the transfer window. That's the good thing, because we're actually looks like we mean business. So the great news about that, obviously, is that like there's actual going to be concrete stuff for us to discuss, rather than just like rumors from not so reliable accounts, you know what I mean, or journalists. I'm excited to see Stefan Bajcetic as well in preseason, because like I said, I according to Lewis Steele, he's going to be given an opportunity in preseason, and that's going to determine whether he'll be part of our team, part of our squad for next season. And I hope he is, because I really do rate him. Bro, it's impossible for me to say when we'll have the here we go for Wirtz, but I think it's closer than we think. Because we'll know we need to move on this very quick, because again, you never know, a club like Madrid could come knocking and it would make things more difficult. Benny says, I would like Gordon, as he's not really playing for Newcastle. Nah, apparently they're not willing to sell him. And they're not willing to sell Isak, Bruno. They're star players. They're not willing to sell them. They don't have to, because they don't have PSR issues now that they got Champions League football. I love that, Alan. Do you run that shop, or you work at the shop? At the fireworks shop. Bajcetic should be our backup to DM and center back fourth choice. We need a player like him. I'm a big fan of his, bro. I hope, like I said, that he gets his chance. I really hope he does. Victoria, nice to see you in the building. What's good? What's good? But yeah, guys, I think this is going to be the end of the live stream, because I got to go right now. I got to go see my friend at the bakery. But yeah, guys, like I said, there will be a lot more live streams to come on Saturday. I promise you, Saturday night I'll be live for the Champions League final. We'll do a watch along for that. PSG against Inter Milan. But yeah, hopefully more news, more things arise in between then, and we can do a spontaneous kind of breaking news live stream that we can all discuss together. But yeah, Mighty Red says, honestly, I'm so glad that we're buying first and selling second instead of the other way around. I assume Costas will be leaving. Yeah, I think so too. It's my friend's shop. I work there, but we got you covered. I was at the game Sunday too. Let's go. Big up, bro. But yeah, guys, I appreciate all of you guys in the building tuning in and sharing that passion. Guys, we'll be back very, very soon. And hopefully, like I said, with some here we goes, we want that here we go for Wirtz. We want that here we go for Gyökeres. It looks like maybe even today Frimpong was filming with the team, because he's already landed in Liverpool. So yeah, guys, exciting times ahead. And yeah, I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. And I will see you very, very soon. You'll never walk alone, guys. All the best.